Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, Team Elevate Growth Team. Welcome back to Career Growth with Karen. This is the channel where we have empowering conversations about how to elevate our careers, how to have more progressive, satisfying, and fulfilling careers. So if that's what you're looking for, guess what? You're in the right place. Welcome to Career Growth with Karen. My name is Karen. I almost said my name is Career Growth, which is my name, but my actual name is Karen Gaira, and I am a career strategist and coach. I am also a HR professional, a HR expert. I like to call myself that because that's who I am. And I'm happy to be engaging in today's topic, which will be a response to another episode that we did. And I saw some comments, and I will just be responding to one of the comments that was raised there. So today, there is this episode we did with 6 things which your employer should never do to you. And there was a comment, what if the employer does those things to you? So what do you do when your employer is not doing the right thing? What do you do when your employer is not doing the right thing according to law or according to process or according to policies? What do you do? That's going to be our today's episode. So let's get started. This is Career Growth with Karen. Okay, so this episode we did 6 things your employer should never do to you, and there was one of you at Helen Stevens 467 who asked, what do you do if these things have been done? Because I said your employer should not do, but she said, what do you do when those things have already been done to you? So you can first of all go and watch that episode. We will leave the link in the description box. Go and watch that episode. But then, in as much as we are saying there is an ideal way to operate, there is things that your employer should not do to you based on either law or whatever. There are things that they shouldn't do to you. There are still some employers will do it. And I mentioned here, by the way, all of us in HR are learning. So sometimes we don't know even what the policy says, and we do things that are in contravention to the very regulations that are regulating the space in which we are operating. So, what do you do? For example, if your salary has been decreased without notice, for example, if you have been fired without notice, for example, if you have not been given due process or hearing has not been accorded to you during a discipline process, what do you do in such an instance? First of all, it's just to tell you that these cases do happen, as I have said, because we don't all know, HR don't all know, but also there are organizations that don't invest in a good HR. And what I mean is, you're an organization of over 400 people. You have had a HR assistant who is just from college. The thing is, this HR assistant is good, but they still have a long way to go in terms of learning. You need to invest in somebody who has had some experience, who knows 1 or 2 things, and they can work together with this HR associate or with this HR assistant or with this HR officer. They work together just so that they can run the HR function. You cannot overinvest in director of finance, director of programs, and yet you do not have a good HR person who can manage for you the HR function. So what do you do in the event that this has happened to you? Number 1, just decide what you want to do. Do you want to remain in that place to stay or to leave? Sometimes it depends with how you take things, because personally for me, there are things which if you do them to me, I take it as disrespect and I walk away. But also let's understand that sometimes it's not just possible to walk away, because it depends with, are you the breadwinner in your family? What's the financial situation? Do you have a safety net as far as money is involved? Because sometimes if you have a financial safety net, you can just walk away from a job because disrespect has been served. But other times you have to stay put, not because you agree with what has gone on, but because you do not have a way out yet. So sometimes just make the decision. Do you want to stay or do you want to leave? For me today, if somebody just reduced my salary out of nowhere, and it is not COVID, it is not anything, it is just I have demoted you. Ha! I do not see how I would stay, guys. Please, I do not see how I would stay. So that's why I'm saying we have different tolerance for different things. We have different tolerance for different things. So make a decision. Do I want to stay put or do I want to be on my way out? Secondly, you can speak out. Speak out to HR. Talk to management. Talk to the internal people in there. Because at times, the HR has done this because they don't know. The Employment Act is a document on the internet. You can go and get it and download it and have it in your laptop. So if you see something has been done and it contravenes the Employment Act, you can go to the HR and tell them, this is what the Employment Act is saying. I have 21 days of leave. How come here I'm not getting the 21 days of leave and yet this is a formal employment? You can go to them. I know when it comes to staff, sometimes casuals, etc., they may not, it may be difficult to get some of these things formally in their work arrangements. But if you just have a standard working contract and you have the Employment Act and you can see something that has happened is different, you can go with that act, print it out and highlight the sections and go with it to HR and ask, why is this done like this? Why is this done like this? Yet this is what the act says. Most likely, if it is just an act of omission, the HR will be like, oh, oops, that was our bad, and they'll be able to resolve it. If they're not able to hear you out, speak to anyone else you can talk to. It could be management, it could be a HR representative, maybe you have a staff council. Talk to them and try to find a resolution in-house, because sometimes, again, as I have mentioned, these are just mistakes or oversights. So if you bring it out, you can get a solution. What else can you do? You can volunteer to lead the change. At times, what is happening because of lack of a policy. For example, we have no policy around how we do promotions and salary whatever's determining salaries, or we have no method of doing transfers. So you find sometimes you're coming from here, you're going there, the pay is lower. Sometimes it's just we are just missing policies. So if we are missing policies, sometimes you can volunteer to lead the change and say, guys, because here there is a vacuum, we do not have a policy and processes that is guiding how we do XYZ. Let me lead the change in terms of, let me draft something, let me have a working group, let us be the ones who come up with this policy, so that now going forward, we have a direct way in which we do a certain thing. And then you can decide to leave the organization, as I have said, if you have exhausted. But for me, I believe, first of all, try to sort out the problem. Try to sort it out internally. Until you have exhausted all means of sorting it out internally, you have exhausted, then at that point, you can decide to go out. Remember, when you go out, you're only helping yourself. But if you choose to speak out and lead the change, you're helping yourself and everyone else who will ever go through such a scenario. So you're being a more useful human being to the world and to the universe if you choose to lead the change than just to walk away from it. But even if you have to get out after you have tried lobbying, and you have exhausted everything internally, and then you can say, you know what, I've tried and these guys cannot hear me out, and therefore I have to walk out. And at that point, you can get out. Lastly, you actually have the opportunity to take legal action for anything that you feel has not been given the right address in your organization. That's why we have labor court. So any employment matters can be listened to in labor court. And that's why I said first try and exhaust, because even the courts, they like to hear that you tried to do something, you tried to voice and you could not be heard. So exhaust everything internally. And then if you really feel like an injustice has been meted upon you and it has been so bad and you have tried to address it and you're still aggrieved, you have the labor court. Usually, because this is an expensive option, because you may need a lawyer, you may need to file documents upon documents, it will be time consuming. That's why I advocate that it be your last option. Though for some of you, you would still prefer that it be your first. No, nothing stops you. But I prefer it as a last resort because it's very time consuming and very finances consuming and just also mentally consuming. But you can seek legal redress for any unfairness or anything that you feel has been done on you that is not okay for you. But make sure when you're going to take legal action, you are consistent with the law, because at times it is you who doesn't know what the law says, or it is you who doesn't know what the policy is. For any other thing that you consider an injustice out there, first of all, familiarize yourself with your internal policy and familiarize yourself with the Employment Act before you can determine that something wrong has gone on. So I hope I have helped you, Helen Stevens. If you're still watching my content, please go in here in the comment section and let me know if I have assisted. Otherwise, see you in the next one.